Hey, what's up YouTube? Luso here, Team D Plus Gaming. I'm here to give you a deck profile today, kind of in the spirit of Nationals going on this weekend in Chicago. This is going to be an Elemental Dragon deck. I'm going to give you a breakdown of the deck, kind of how it works, all the mechanics of it, explain the choices that I make and why I made them, and why some other people who will be playing this deck this weekend aren't playing these specific cards. But to me, they add a lot. Like the choices I made add a lot to the deck, help the flow and consistency. And I kind of wish more people would be running them because there is a lot of bonuses to adding these cards to the Elemental Dragon deck. Beyond that, for the channel, I will probably have a Harpy profile here fairly soon. I still need to trade for a couple more cards for it before that is finished up. But beyond that, I hope to have a Number Hunter box opening here fairly soon that did come out today. So I guess I'm going to just kind of get into the profile here. Elemental Dragon deck, it's a great deck, tons of consistency in it, very little trap is needed, all monster heavy. So I just built this recently. I know it's been out there since Tachyon Galaxy, but I mean, it's just something that I didn't really find appealing. It's very one-dimensional deck-wise, but after playing it for a little while, I've seen why it's rightfully earned its place on top. It's a great deck. There's no such thing as a bad hand. I think it was best summed up when someone said, with this deck, your hand is your hand, your graveyard is your hand, your deck is your hand, removed from play is your graveyard. I mean, that just kind of speaks to how easily you can use all parts of this deck. It's a standard build. We've got 3 each of the big dragons, 2 of each of the baby dragons. So let's kind of start getting into things here. I start out with Tempest. So each of the big dragons have 3 effects. They have a special summoning effect, essentially, a discard effect, and a banished effect. The banished effect and discard effect, the banished effect and special summoning effect are all the same with the dragons, but the discard effect varies from attribute to attribute. So Tempest, when it's banished, you can add a dragon of the same attribute from deck to hand. When it is, it can be special summoned by banishing 2 of the same attribute or 2 dragons or a combination thereof to special summon it from your hand or graveyard. And then when it's discarded with another wind monster, you can take and add 1 dragon monster from your deck to your hand. And then Lightning is the baby dragon for the wind attribute. When it's discarded with another wind or dragon monster, you can special summon a Tempest from your deck to your side of the field. So also with the big dragons, if they've been special summoned, they return to your hand at the end of your opponent's turn. So it's out there for both your turn and your opponent's, which is kind of a step above spirit monsters, which is why they kind of stop seeing play. It's just because you have to waste your summon, and then it didn't even stay out there for your opponent's turn, while Elemental Dragons, they stay out there for that following turn. Next up we have Title. Title, again, like I said, they all have the same special summoning requirements and same banish effect. You had to add a dragon water from deck to hand with this one, but his discard effect is if you discard him with another water, you get to take and add a water monster from your deck to graveyard. So it gives you graveyard support, gives you more fodder in your graveyard to banish. Again, to stream, discard that, you get a special summon Title. Next up, we have 3 Reactant. I'm usually not a big fan of having foreign cards in the main deck, but with Elemental Dragons, it's kind of a plain deck. It's the same for everybody, so I didn't feel bad about having Spanish dragons in here. I mean, just because it's something to splash in, everybody knows the effects just because they're so prominent at the moment. So that's kind of something to add a little flavor to the deck. With Reactant, when he's discarded with another Earth, you get a monster reborn from either player's graveyard. So, I mean, that's great. Again, 2 Pebbles. Next up, we have 3 Blaster. When he's discarded, it's spot destruction, essentially. Other than that, it's the same. Banish and banish and special summon. And then you've got 2 Burner to go with those. So that's kind of it for the dragons. There's 20 of those. That's standard. It's kind of required in any elemental dragon deck. Um, and so, I mean, the dragons are great to splash into other decks, but I mean, put them together, it's just completely broken. Next up, I have a Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. So most people don't run him in here. So I just like him just because it helps you conserve your graveyard. Because then you get a special summon of a dragon without having to banish two. And so, I mean, that helps you, in my opinion, to stay alive a little bit longer. Helps you to take, and if it is like a mirror match or something where you're trying to go as big as possible, I mean, I know he's not a level 7, which is kind of the downfall, which is why people stopped using him, but it helps you to bring a level 7 from your hand or graveyard out to the field without having to banish anything. So, I mean, that's really good. Plus, it's 2800 attack, which can get over just about anything your opponent wants to throw at you. Next up, you get into some hand traps. Of course, you have 2 effect veilers. Great for synchroing, great for negating effects, and just all around good card in the deck. Next up, 2 Max C. Again, this deck's prepared for the mirror match, essentially. Your opponent starts going off, you can take and discard that, get it to keep drawing. Plus, it's an Earth, you can discard it with Redox if your opponent isn't special summoning a lot. Get a monster reborn that way. Then Necroface is another card people aren't using. To me, this is one of the best cards for this deck, support-wise. When you take and summon it, all removed from play monsters are shuffled into the deck, which again just gives you back your entire deck. Essentially adds all of your monsters that were in your graveyard, so to speak, back into your hand. Just the way the deck works. Also, this other effect, if you banish it, you banish the top 5 cards of your deck. Your opponent does the same. Your opponent doesn't gain anything from that, but you do. By banishing any big dragon that was banished, you get its effect, and you get to add a dragon to your hand, and so that just gives you insane hand advantage. I mean, Necroface is just a great card in the deck. I would highly recommend, at the very least, citing it. Next up, 3 Super Rejuvenations. Again, anytime a dragon was discarded or tributed, which tributing you're not really worrying about here, but anytime it was taken and discarded, you get a draw for 1 at the end phase. Unlike Spellbook of Judgment, you can chain this to the end phase. It doesn't have to be activated first. And if you activate 1 and draw into another, you can activate that too and just keep going. Other cards for draw power, I've got 1 Sacred Sword of 7 Stars. I was running 2, but then I realized you have card destruction. And it's so much better. You have any amount of cards in your hands, really. You just discard them. You still have access to them. You can still use them to banish that, or to banish them to special summon others. So, I mean, it's just great. You get to draw into more. And plus, discarding dragons with this counts for Super Rejuvenation. So, I mean, that's just insane advantage. So, I'd definitely recommend card destruction. Next up, you got your 3 gold sarcophaguses. It's your way to take and banish Necroface. Other than that, helps you, you can banish a big dragon, you get its effect of adding 1 to the hand, then you get the other one you just banished to your hand 2 turns later. Again, no really risk to using it in here, so you might as well. Next up, I've got a Burial from a Different Dimension. Adds 3 monsters that were removed from play back to the graveyard. So again, take and banish them, brings 3 back. It's another free special summon of a big dragon, plus you have 1 more to spare to start on your next one. And then I still run staples in this deck. I run Monster Reborn. It, again, conserves graveyard. You can take something from your opponents. I still run Dark Hole, and I still run Heavy Storm. Most people, because they have the spot destruction with Blaster, they have stopped running Dark Hole and Heavy Storm. But I still like those in there. I mean, you Dark Hole, you can take and just re-special summon your monsters. It's really not that hard. Heavy Storm, again, gets rid of back row. You're not running a whole lot of back row, so it doesn't hurt you to run Heavy Storm at all. And then for a trap lineup, very basic. You've got 3 breakthrough skills, which takes and you target a effect monster your opponent controls, and you negate the effect. Then it's in the graveyard. During your turn, you can take and banish it to negate another monster's effect. A great way to get around Ophion or anything else that your opponent's trying to use to stop you. And plus, since they can banish themselves from the graveyard, that keeps your graveyard trap free, so you can go into Treacherous Trap Hole. Set this, and you can take and destroy 2 monsters on the field. No cost, don't have to wait for your opponent to summon or anything. Just take and destroy them. Next, moving on to extra deck stuff. Of course, I have a token. Just using a Japanese Super Rejuve. Again, Japanese cards you can't play in the English format, so I thought it was a fitting token for it, just in case your opponent activates something where you need a token. Main go-to card in this, Mega Phantom Beast Dracosac, just requires 2/7s. Detach 1, you get 2 tokens that he can't be destroyed while tokens are on the field. You contribute a machine-type monster, so one of the tokens to destroy a card on the field. So, I mean, just really great. People are running 3 of those. I can see 3 being a very good number. 2 would work just as well, in my opinion, but 3 is probably the go-to number. Next, you have your number 11 Big Eye, 2 level 7s again, 2600 attack, same as Dracosac. Detach 1, take control of one of your opponent's monsters permanently. This one's a little bit risky for the simple fact that it still has a material, so if your opponent goes into a Big Eye themselves, they can take your Big Eye and then take something else of yours. So it's a little bit risky that way, but it definitely can win you game, or it can help you push for games. So, again, great card. People are running 3 of those as well. I would say you only really need 2 of those. If you're going into the third, you've probably misplayed somewhere along the way. I don't really foresee ever going into 3 Big Eye. Next up, you have your Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger, 2600 piercing, requires 2/7s. It's just another alternative because you have the extra deck room. Because I mean, you've got 3 Dracosacs, 2 to 3 Big Eye. That's 5 cards. You still have 10 slots to fill. Abyss Gaios, again 2800 for a rank 7, which has more attack than anything else out there, rank 7 wise. A little more specific, it requires 2 title. But beyond that, again, great card. Crimson Blader, 2800 attack again, which is good. Helps you get over pretty much anything your opponent has. And plus, especially in the mirror match, if you get one of these out, it's pretty much game for your opponent. Because, I mean, you would take attack, destroy anything. They can't normal or special summon level 5 or higher monsters. So then they can't go into any of their dragons in the mirror match or anything like that. Also, I've thrown in a level 5 synchro because you have level 4 baby dragons. Allied Justice Caster, anything that's not dark is destroyed when it attacks it. So, I mean, to me, it's a really good card for this, just because if you're facing Mirror Match or Spellbooks, they're probably not going to have darks on the field. The only thing it doesn't work against is Evil Swarm, which you have breakthrough skills for, and the other thing is Armory Arms, the generic 4 that everybody likes to use. So the other thing is, I mean, you still have a little bit of room left in your extra deck, so, I mean, you can add in, if you want, generic rank 4s. Abyss Dweller is really good. It shuts off your opponent's graveyard. But, I mean, otherwise, Utopia, always a fan of Photon Pappy. And you could, if you really wanted to throw in a rank 3, I mean, just Zen Mains is just something generic. Because, I mean, if you have the extra deck room, I highly recommend you going for it. And continuing to use all the spaces you have. Think of what situations you could get yourself into and what would help the most to get out of those. And, I mean, you've got 15 slots there for a reason. I would not recommend running less than 15 cards in your extra deck, unless you're not planning to use it at all, which is kind of rare at this point in the format. Common side deck cards to go with it, Troll and Lockbird, just because of spellbooks. Really self-explanatory. With this one, for the first time, I'm actually citing all 5 pieces of Exodia, just because you have such draw power in this deck. I mean, win a fast game 1, which isn't hard to do. Game 2, throw on the 5 pieces of Exodia. Your opponent doesn't see that coming. I mean, you can still go off like crazy, and that just helps you draw all the more. With that, I throw on a second Sacred Sword of 7 stars, just to help that go along. People are throwing in Flamvel Guards. It's fire, it's a tuner, it's level 1. It helps out with your synchro plays. As your alternate trap lineup, you have your 3 Royal Decrees. Again, pretty self-explanatory. If you're running something like Evil Swarm, just shut off all traps. And that helps you out a lot, because then they have to rely on their monsters. Effects only. Return from a different dimension. Again, just a way to get cards back from from Banished. And then the other thing is, people stopped running Light and Darkness Dragon and Eclipse Wyvern. The reason they stopped running it is because of your breakthrough skill. Light and Darkness Dragon can't negate your breakthrough skill, but to me, I still have these cited just because they are dragons. They help you draw faster, and they take, and it's just it helps negate everything, pretty much. Your opponent tries to do anything, it's negated. You can detach one from Draco Sack, you get 2 tokens, which you can tribute for that immediately. So, I mean, it's just really good in the deck. There's not too much that you're seeing, except for the mirror match, where that's not a good option to have available. So I don't think I counted this. I think it might be a little more than 15 cards, but I mean, those are just some ideas of what you can side deck into Elemental Dragons. So, this is Luso with Team D Plus Gaming, signing out.